Sup folks, your boy Droid here. We back with another video as part 1 of 2 of the series where we're going to address whether lottery picks and shoves should be removed from NBA Playgrounds 2. So we had a poll, and this was the topic that won. Of course, with these polls, I hope to make all the videos at some point. But we're gonna start with this first video with shoves. But before we get started, please hit that like button and that subscribe button. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna look at basically what the average player thinks of shoves. What do top players think of shoves? Are shoves balanced? And then I'm gonna give my opinion, on whether or not they should be removed. So I would say the average player, looking at Reddit, YouTube, other forums, is that the average player doesn't really like shoves. I think most people, they'll accept an occasional shove here and there if in the crunch time, you got like a really good lottery pick, something that saves the game, but they don't really like it as a main form of defense. Like, you go in and you just keep shoving, trying to get the ball. That's your primary, method of defense. I would say the average player does not agree with that. If you someone who tends to shove a lot, you might get hated on by the community. A lot of us who are older school, we also don't really like to shove because of the the lottery meter. Lottery meter can have some devastating abilities in there, so you really try to build it up, get as many as possible in the game. That's what a lot of top players of old, like Caution, Disney Mike, they'll build up the lottery meter right away as many times as possible. And when you're one of those people that can get the lottery pick towards the end of the game, you're getting something like Ice Basket or Curse that's gonna change the tide of the game. But if we're gonna look at, we looked at the average, but what about top players? Well, how do they feel about shoves in NBA Playgrounds 2? So we're gonna first look at Revan. So if you ever watch Revan's videos, a lot of ones we've done together as well, he will say by his own account that he's like the guy that really brought shoving into the mainstream. I will say definitely a PS4, although there's definitely some people on PC like Violent JD who've also they've been able to use shoving as a main form of defense at a high level. I would say top players, what they really do, they balance shoving and the lottery meter well. So when you shove, the lottery meter doesn't fully decrease. It will take off an active pick, but if you're building up your meter, let's say you have about 90%, it may drop it down to like maybe 50-40%, so you can still build up the meter. And then if you miss a shove but you end up scoring, now you got the lottery pick. But one of those things that you notice when you play one of these guys who's really good that can shove is that they somehow manage to build up their meter despite shoving repeatedly. And when they go for shoves, they don't just shove you just to shove you, they shove to try to get the possession. So that's one of their one of the calling cards of these top players. Like, a lot of times if you play and you're beating someone down, like an average player, they'll get mad and start shoving and they'll kill lottery meters or whatever thing, but they don't know actually how to shove. They just shove just because they're mad. If we look at a team like, Rambo Cheese, they can shove, and when they shove you, they're getting the ball back. They're not just shoving you. So I would say it's easy to shove. Like, sometimes average players think, it's just easy to shove, but I would say to get to a high level of shoving, it takes some practice and some timing. And of course, shoves have their own drawbacks. I think Nanitron has said that when we're asked if we want to remove shoves for like a tournament, they have their own drawbacks. It leaves you at a disadvantage in certain situations. So now we're going to transition into whether lottery picks, are they balanced in this game. So the main reason why someone uses shove is because they're 100% effective in terms of knocking the ball out of an opponent's hand. So if you ever played a game like NBA Jam, NBA Baller, something like that, where you can shove, sometimes you don't get the ball, like the person still holds onto it. In Playgrounds, regardless of the player's height, weight, whatever, they'll drop the ball. Now, depending on the the players' speed ratings and things like that, how long they're on the ground or how long they're affected by is different. But for the most part, like everyone, you can get the ball. And if you can also use shoving as a way to like prevent a player from catching the ball. So if they're on that certain path, you can shove them when your teammates passing the ball, and the ball's gonna fly past them. A lot of things people do, like top players, they'll shove to prevent you from getting a rebound. So I would say from that perspective, those are the benefits of shoving. Now, if we look at some of the drawbacks, shoves, they cancel out active lottery picks. So if you have, let's say, you have multiplier stars, okay, great, but you can't shove. You have to make, if you want, okay, let's say you score, you get the first one, you got to find a way to get a stop without shoving. And you often see newer players make the mistake of shoving when they have a nice pick. But that's the main drawback. The main drawback is that when you shove, you lose your lottery pick. And then it will drain lottery meter by a percentage if it's not a full bar. But it doesn't reduce the meter all the way if it's not already an active pick. So keep that in mind. And then the last drawback for it, well, two drawbacks is, first, shoves will drain the stamina bar. So you can do one shove, but you can't spam it. Once you do the one shove, you gotta wait for your stamina to come back to be able to do another one. And then it also leaves you vulnerable for some time before you recover. So one of the ways you punish, someone who shoves is, okay, we call it pulling a Revan. You go for a dunk, because you can't shove someone who's dunking or doing a layup in certain jump shots. There's some jump shots you can push someone out of, but for the most part, when someone's doing a dunk or layup, they can't be shoved. So you can catch someone who's trying to shove, who has a tendency to shove in the corner, by doing a dunk or layup. You ever heard of the droid move? That's basically it, just punishing people who tend to shove in the corner with a move that can't be shoved. So those are the main drawbacks and benefits to it. I would say, in my opinion, shoves are definitely balanced, but I'm definitely someone who would say I don't really believe in continually shoving, but I think it's okay in the game. I think it's not broken, so it's okay in the game. I think you can become a great player without shoving, but it's tough because when you don't shove, your opponent, it doesn't keep your opponent honest. Like if someone is gonna shove you if you do certain things, that's gonna change the way you play. If the other guy's not gonna shove you, you can get away with a lot of stuff that people can't do if they're shoving. So I would say keep that in mind. It's okay to shove once in a while. I would say I definitely had the mentality back in the day where if anyone, I didn't really respect someone that's better than me if they shoved me. Now, of course, nowadays I don't have that same opinion, but that was something that back in the day, okay, I lost the game, close the game maybe 3-4 points, but this guy shoved me the whole game. I didn't really respect it back in the day. But playing against top level players, seeing how they play, you see the importance of needing that shove, because there's other dominant strategies that people can't do if they're shoved. So that's my opinion. I say I keep shoves in the game with moderation. Maybe someday they may make a game where you have a limited amount of shoves, and if you shove, you got a free throw or something. But I would say it's not something that should be removed from the game because it's not broken. That's my opinion. It's in the game. There's no balance issues. Like elbows got the balance issue, which I've discussed in old videos, but shoves, I think they're pretty balanced. It's just annoying to deal with, but once you learn how to deal with them, it becomes much more manageable to deal with. So that's how I view it. Hope y'all enjoyed this video. Leave a like, subscribe, comment. Peace.